And here they are, your players in the bottom left-hand corner from New Star Hoso. It is LNKey. LNKey facing off against the victor from the last set. He is from Dream Team Gaming. His name is Scar.
All right, so another ZVP, and Scar was planning some sort of Stargate in +1 shenanigans, quick third base is what it appeared, but that was delayed, decided to move into a big 8 gate afterwards, and worked just fine. I mean, there was no possibility of his opponent being able to recover. Cool placement of the first pylon, building that a little bit farther back, has a couple more opportunities to build some more creative walls if things get a little bit dicey. And we'll see what path LNKey goes down last time. I will say that Darkstar had a really cool start to the last game.
He did.
Faking, I don't know how much of it was a fake of the 15 hatch, because he had built up to about 250 resources. The probe ducked away to go try and block that hatch. Then he immediately put down a spawning pool. When the probe came back, he trapped and killed the probe. Very cool start, but afterwards wasn't able to follow it up.
Yeah, I mean, much of it was not his fault. It was Scar having a great opening. Until he committed to it. I mean, after you see the Void Ray tech, to continue and morph in, another 18 Banelings and try it again, yes, you're very invested in this, and you're going to be behind trying to transition out of it, but it's not gonna work versus Protoss. But he did, he played it very intelligently regardless, tried to, get Scar to pull his army out to the middle of the map and then swung with the Banelings, which was just awesome. But Scar just reacted so well, warping in those 4 sentries, 1 Zealot, threw down the force fields all, and just did a fantastic job holding that overall. So overall, a fantastic game out of Darkstar. It was really cool seeing that playstyle out of him, but Scar just showing he is on point.
I like that Zerg players have been doing this more lately too, sending that drone out a bit earlier, because they know they're going to get their hatch down at just the right time, because they can start driving away that probe earlier. Protoss players have been finding a little bit more success in the past whenever Zerg players were sending, okay, well, I have about 300 minerals, let's send that drone down, and then it was delayed. But when you send it down at about 100, 150 minerals, by the time you actually clear off that probe, you'll have just enough of your hatchery, and it's not delayed in any way.
Yeah, fantastic point, and that's where you kind of run into like a meta situation, because with that, the Zerg player is actually not going to have their hatchery delayed at all by your probe, and so you almost want to pylon block it. But when people are not sending it down extremely early, well, then you don't need to bother pylon blocking it, because now you're in a situation where you're already going to delay it anyways with your probe.
But if you pylon block after a Nexus first, they can make 6 lanes and kill you. So it's kind of a weird situation. But, all right, well, afterwards, once again, Scar going to be a little bit safer, not putting down his gateway before the photon cannon, making sure he gets that up. He's not going to die to any sort of shenanigans. And this time only takes 1 probe to be able to pick up on all 3 of the hatcheries that his opponent has rather than 3.
Yep, good job there out of Scar, of course. Now, LNKey could always, pull a little Leenock, cancel that third, go for some roaches, but the aggressive style that we saw last time out of Darkstar didn't work too well against Scar, so I would be a little bit surprised if LNKey opts for a similar aggression, especially on a map like Daybreak, which is just so large.
And LNKey was a little more, I don't want to call it necessarily official part of NSHO sub, but LNKey has been part of the team for a little while and does pop up on their official roster and things. So I would expect that we just saw, as a lot of Korean teams will do, throw out their newest player as a starter just to kind of test the waters and see what happens, and then follow that up with your more known players afterwards.
All right, so at this point, LNKey, yeah, I was just thinking, should be going to check to make sure that there's no super fast, greedy third out of Scar. This is something that players have been doing a little bit on Daybreak. It was more popular if you went back like 2 months ago or so. It was actually like take a Nexus while your Robo's building, and then like pump out an Immortal and a Sentry, and then drop 3 gateways and wall off down bottom. But Zerg players have since found out, like, oh, I can actually just go for a really fast Roach Warren, wiggle you out of position, and then just kill you through your natural or whatever. So, I mean, great force fields can stop it if you can line it up in front of the cannon, but it's so dangerous. Scar going to open up with a very quick Stargate once again, folks.
Yeah, same build as last time.
Yep, with the 2 gases and everything.
Yeah, delaying the +1 weapons. Pretty much down to the wire. So if this ends up being a little bit normal game, we'll perhaps see what the true intention of this was going to be last time. Looks like the extractor's going down at about the right time. I think it was 42 supplies, something like that. So everything looks very normal for LNKey so far.
So this could end up being one of those situations, because Scar, well, so you expressed last game that you thought Scar wanted to go for a fast expansion. off this build.
Yeah, it looked like he was, because he had already put down the pylon that was out in front by the time that the bailing attack was supposed to be starting to happen. And we'll see if he does that, if it's going to be a 4-gate Stargate expand, or if he's going to go into a quicker robo afterwards.
Yeah, I'm wondering if this is one of those builds, you know, some Protoss, you know, go for builds. You're just actually Hydras can work versus them. Not a unit that we see great effectiveness with in ZVP unless you're a player like Violet or something, but yeah, so we have the Void Ray, the +1, everything lining up exactly like it did last game. And the Void Ray should be able to clean up all the units that are hanging out in front. We do have a couple of Zerglings poking in right now. There's Overlords as well. Scar should be able to clear everything out and make way for some foundations to be laid.
And thus far, LNK has not bid on any Spore Crawlers or anything along those lines. There is an Evolution Chamber done. I mean, this has all been textbook Zerg play so far. 3 gases are now down for LNK, going up to Layer Tech. Roach War and Evolution Chamber are already in place to stay safe against all ins. And +1 Carapace is coming up, which is kind of a big tell too. I mean, you would go for +1 ranged weapons if you were planning some sort of a you know, a quick attack or going right to infest or something.
Yeah,
like that.
interesting. We may be seeing heavy. I mean, yeah, he's got the Roaches and Glial Reconstitution on the way, but it's definitely possible we could see some heavy Ling-based play out of LNK. Lings are, of course, Carapace. You know, if you can keep it on par with the +1 of your opponent and not let them get too far ahead, works great against Zealots.
And this is what we were talking about before. It is indeed a quick expand build, a 4-gate Stargate expand. So that's what we were expecting last time, but the Bailing All-In interrupted us, and this is what we're actually going to get. So Infestors are popping up. We'll see how much you invest into Infestors, or if we're going to use this as a gateway into very fast Hive Tech.
Which, I mean, all right, so there is the second Evolution Chamber as well. Will likely, I mean, I do feel like it's going to be for the ranged upgrades because of the Infestation Pit Tech. The Carapace is just a little bit perplexing at this point. I mean, it will help counter any early, you know, like charge lot builds or anything of that nature, but overall, just a little bit, and it's going to be the melee. So, I mean, he's got mistimed melee and Carapace upgrades here. Not going to be many timing attacks, excuse me, open for LNK, so should be playing just fairly macro and defensive here.
Yeah, which is why he may actually just gun it for Hive Tech here in just a bit if he wants to go that way, start investing into his eventual Broodlords, maybe Ultralisks as the game wears along. Broodlords are very good on this map, so I would not be too surprised to see that. A lot of gateways up now for Scar. I think that gives him 8 in total. Let me see. Yeah, 8, and Robo and Twilight Council and his relevant upgrades are on the way, so things are looking pretty good for him if he can stay defensive for a little while longer.
Another gateway going down, quite a number of them at the front of that third base. Could be gearing up for a very large attack here. But, you know, LNK, well, he's got Carapace completed, so that's going to make it that the Zealots won't be absolutely wrecking his Zerglings, as he is making 34 of them to prepare for this light pressure that could turn into something more. Are there any probes headed out here, Kev? I see more units following suit.
I see sentries, I see an observer. I don't see any probes quite yet. A lot of observers, and even this Phoenix that's just hanging around, scouting, getting a pretty good read on everything. I don't think
that's great.
Scar is too afraid to see this quick fourth base coming out of his player, because now he's taking the initiative to sit back, invest in Colossi, get his Templar Archives. We'll probably even see that Fleet Beacon here in just a bit and go for an early Mothership. Because now, you know, a 3-base Protoss can actually amass an enormous 200 supply army very quickly that includes all of its top tech.
Kevin, I love what I'm seeing out of Scar right now. He moved across the map and then turned around. So many Protoss players do not bother doing this, and it's something that, like, if you know you can safely, if you sense that you're, which, I mean, he didn't sense it, he observed it. He's got 2 observers on the map and a Phoenix. He saw him. You're very unit light right now. This is just such an intelligent play. After seeing that there weren't a lot of units on LNK's end, he moved out across the map, forced LNK to make a ton of units, and then went back home, all perfectly safe. He knew he was safe doing this, and now LNK could have a completely saturated 4th base, but instead is just getting it started.
All right, well, we'll see how Scar wants to follow this up. So far, Scar's been playing very Zerg-like. You can see that's the total amount of gateway units he's actually producing, and maybe a couple more up here, yeah. But really, not all that much in total. He's just sitting back, waiting until he needs to make an army, and then he has the infrastructure and economy to be able to just produce a massive, instant warped-in, top-tier tech army.
Yeah, no, you're completely right. And is even going to be trying to go for this 4th right now. Don't know if he's got the position to do this. Fungal Growth going to capture every single sentry, but not going to be able to capitalize on it. Just a little bit of shields lost there.
And look at this little tower defense here. I love this because all of the Zerglings would have to run up in between all the photon cannons. That's very clever stuff.
Zerglings trying to make their way home now. Scar is going to be dancing back and forth in positions, and in fact is going to go for a little bit of a harassment play here.
Surprised that we don't have charge yet. That's a pretty valuable upgrade at this stage of the game, but we can see that this is almost at the point where he needs to just flip it on and start making units here in a second. Unfortunately, he gets all those zealots cleaned up without taking out anything in return. And does he know about this base in the top left-hand corner? Yes, he does. Pylon just barely getting vision of that, apparently.
But LNK also knows about this pylon. He's going to take that out quite quickly. The units may be able to catch some infestors here. No is, in fact, just going to ignore the fact that he threw down Guardian Shields and back up.
Needs a few more pylons, though. Scar is bit supply blocked. We'll need to put down a couple more of those. May use this opportunity to put down some higher tech or something along those lines. Sitting on 74 probes, which is a decent amount. His opponent has 89, now 88 workers as he's starting to put in that spine crawler wall, I would imagine, outside of his fourth base. Zealot's doing some pretty good damage here. Only on 1-1 upgrades, though. If there's anything you could say about Scar's build, despite the fact that he's invested so much into his infrastructure, he has very, very low upgrades.
Yeah, this is definitely true. He's going to deny, or at least attempt to deny here, this base in the upper corner. LNK's army moving in order to try to intercept, but not going to be able to do it. We'll see if he decides to go for a counterattack instead. We see Link streaming across the map. Looks like he's going to go for exactly that, but Scar should be able to warp in some units here at home now that that supply block is cleared.
Yeah, has a couple of photon cannons, and he's retreating with most of his units. Watch the pathing on those, though. Some going through the middle, unfortunately. Could have gotten those caught. First photon cannon's going to fall, but even if it does, wow, it's actually on 5 hit points and it's remaining. This Colossus needs to back up a bit, but other than that, Scar's going to hold on to this perfectly. Now, this is buying time for LNK to move into his top tech. He's got Greater Spire, Corruptors, all that business on the way. But now Scar's sitting on 4 bases, and he's in a pretty good spot.
Those Roaches chased that Colossus halfway across the world, but it did manage to survive. Will now be rejoining with the rest of the army of Scar as he's pushing across the map right now, but a huge quantity of Corruptors are going to intercept the Void Rays right now. That Colossus we were talking about earlier is a little bit out of position, really needs to join up with those Stalkers, and a second Void Ray is going to fall as well.
All right, well, looks like the Twilight Council finished Blink, and Charge has finally started. I was about to say that's being underutilized now, and he really needs to get that going, as that's going to help him so much, especially with this speedy Warp Prism harass that he's got moving around here towards the bottom of the base.
Absolutely. We've got 10, 11 Zealots coming in right now. They're going to be doing a ton of damage here in the main, but LNK reacting to this immediately, has sent Zerglings, but I don't think Zerglings are going to be enough to clean this up, Kevin, not unless he just focus fires, on that hive. Doesn't look like he's doing that. He should. Oh, was that a fungal growth?
Yes, it was.
Oh, huge damage supplement there, of course, as the engagement is going down in the middle of the map.
Yeah, and the Corruptors were actually picked off pretty quickly, and a lot of them were starting to morph into Broodlords right above this army, and if those get finished and they recover their health, and that's going to be a problem, but the Archons get right underneath, and this was almost as good as a Vortex because the Broodlords get cleaned up immediately, so LNK going to lose all of the, or almost all the Broodlords, I should say, but basically all the ones that counted there. Scar gets a pretty good engagement. Now you can see the power of the 5-base Zerg, though, starting to come into effect. A lot of resources were banked up, but interesting decision to instantly remax on nothing but basically Zerglings. There's 113 on the map now. Those are very cheap units, so don't really pay much attention to the total overall supply because that's not indicative of the state of the game, because Scar is still in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, because we're not even on a 5-base Zerg yet, but he is going to lose a Colossus out in the middle, and that's not things he can afford to be doing right now, but he's still got a lot of Archon, Stalkers, Sentries with this army and is continuing with the harass as well. And if there's anything we could say about this harass, it has been effective.
And the Greater Spire is going to fall. That's pretty big. Another Spire is being reproduced, but that's a 200-second build time to go from Spire to Greater Spire. Hatchery was almost taken out at the same time, and still, even though the Overlords are blocking us a little bit right now, these Zealots are doing some pretty good damage. And as you can see, these Zerglings are just not all that cost-effective. Again, I would love to see continued, possibly double upgrades going right now, because I think that's the only place that Scar's lacking. Other than that, he's done a magnificent job of sitting on the map. The Mothership pops out at exactly the right time, and he can actually float these Photon Cannons if he wanted to, but decides to give them up.
All right, so Scar at this point, 159 supply to 163. As you said, Kevin, I mean, that supply definitely not making a difference. Is now we're seeing Scar's, in fact, pulling ahead. Going to be warping in a ton more Zealots in the main. This is where you need to see those Zerg players make 3 or 4 mutas, so that you can deal with this warp prism, and it can't just fly off into the corner of the map, which it's going to have done here, and now is going to be taking off the spawning pool. The new Spire might even, oh wow, I mean, LNK coming in with just Zerglings here. The Infestors are going to join, and he will be able to clean this up.
Yeah, this is great play. It's stretching the multitasking of LNK, and LNK just has no ability to react. And this is the mark of a very solid Protoss player. Scar is just playing really well in this game. I mean, we saw how he was able to hold a very cheesy build in the last game, but now we can see how he stretches out through the longer game. Now, LNK still does have a very powerful army. 17 Infestors, 6 Broodlords with 2 more on the way. That's nothing to sneeze at. And, you know, but Scar continues forward with the Archons, has enough for a Vortex now, and has continued to put pressure onto his opponent's major infrastructure here.
Yeah, I mean, this harass of the main has just been non-stop, completely overwhelming, and LNK has lost a lot of vital structures because of it. Now, I mean, all right, transfuses the Queens once, nails it again, but now he's out on the one on the right.
Yeah, but he keeps it alive for a good long while, and micros the ones at the back. So he actually kept those alive for a decently long period of time. I've got to say that's pretty impressive micro there. And I think he cleaned up the warp prism, but up at the very top left, we have another warp in of Stalkers starting to make their way in.
They will be going into this base once again, and LNK is going to need to hold this, but is not going to be able to do it. The hatchery falls. That was a really big income blow, of course, to LNK. Scar still sitting at 190 supply in 4 bases. LNK is going to try to send in some harass to deny the unexisting 5th base of Scar.
Yeah, not there, and I think Scar's going to take that actually pretty soon. He's starting to duck down that direction. There may have been something hiding there, or a probe even, that was putting down a couple of pylons, and it looks like indeed he is going to clean this up. I don't see an observer anywhere, though, and hopefully one will catch up momentarily.
Can you Vortex a burrowed Zergling?
I don't think so, but I actually don't know the answer to that question offhand. The
All right,
more
guys.
you know. Someone can tweet it at us.
Yeah. Somebody's going to go test it, because I don't know if anybody knows the answer to that question, man. Somebody out there does, but if you're watching right now, please let us know.
So no tech is really hidden at this stage of the game, as units are just running across the map. High Templar, Warp Prisms continue to be annoying. Scar actually bringing in 8 more gateways. I think that puts him up to 20 in total. So he'll be able to instantly reproduce an army. Now he is going to need at least 1 more mining base. He's starting to take this one down here at the bottom right. He actually has to wait 50 seconds for photon cannons, and then 100 seconds for this to be constructed on top of that. Nice catch of the Warp Prism, though. Scar not going to get any additional harassment in.
Didn't have any units in it, though, so that's at least something that, well, actually, as if Scar needs anything else in his favor right now.
Yeah.
Scar's in a great position, guys. LNK, well, he's getting his Broodlord count up there, but
yeah. That is still scary. 22 Infestors, 13 Broodlords. That's going to be a lot to deal with for anyone. But you can see that the way Scar's been playing, he's obviously very confident playing towards the late game. And we'll see here what's going to happen. Looks like a little bit of a counterattack down here at the bottom right-hand corner. Unfortunately, no weapons, of course, because he's maxed. He can't actually produce any more units.
But not enough Zerglings to take it out. Gets it all the way down into the red, but with that second cannon, Scar is going to be able to save that without the use of his army. And it looks like LNK is going to try to wrap up, actually, very quickly, a 6th base. And, you know, if LNK can secure this, could pull ahead in this game, because a lot of it right now is coming down to the bank of these 2 players.
Yeah, and the available gas that's going to be there for LNK, especially, you know, this base has been denied a lot, but if he gets his workers back on it, which he should, because he critically needs that gas going towards the later part of the game to be able to reproduce Infestors and Broodlords, then he's actually going to be in a very nice economic spot. But Scar, of course, does have the high quality of army himself. 9 Archons, 5 High Templar, Mothership, Colossus, 17 Stalkers. Very well-rounded army that can be very quickly reproduced, especially with the bank that he has amassed, 3K, 2K at the moment.
Yeah, and you know, Roaches are really one of the best units against Archons, but in this situation, they just take up too much supply for their actual power. So he definitely doesn't want to be having them. Cannot let these Broodlords get caught by any Vortex or anything of that nature. That's going to be definitely a great risk. And it looks like Scar's going to catch on to this 6th base and should be able to take it out relatively easily here.
Yeah, I mean, his upgrades were very slow in coming, but finally he's on double forges and starting to make this work a little bit quicker, so he's on almost maxed upgrades. He's got his third armor upgrade and shield starting right away. A couple of Templar dropping in, and they need to get off those storms. They do, and it's a pretty good amount of dead workers there. That was certainly worth it.
Yeah, nice land there. 40 workers killed throughout the course of this game by Scar, so some excellent harass. The worker count is now 44 to 75. Scar with the current bank of 3,600, 2,800.
Oh, really nice job there. Neural Parasite actually popping up on top of the mothership and dropping down 2 vortexes so that all of the energy is gone, and that provides so much more power to the army of Elenki.
Yeah, it really does. Does Elenki not have an observer with that army? Because we actually saw earlier, we know he has an observer, but...
I think it's right there.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is Elenki doing a great job realizing that and capitalizing on it.
Really nice play, and that's actually going to, and that's what Elenki needs to do now is delay this game. Scar setting up for the 5, actually he has 1 Stargate already, so this is going to be the 6th Stargate switch. So he'll be able to move into Mass Carrier, Mass Void Ray, whatever he wants to complement this army with here in just a bit. But he's going to need more Cybernetic cores to start investing into those air upgrades ASAP.
I actually am not the biggest fan of Scar's plan of attack here because, I mean, he really, I don't know if he knows how bad the bank right now is of Elenki, who's going to be attacking here, and...
So smart.
Yeah, I mean, this is... Every advantage that Scar currently has is pretty much moot.
Well, yeah, I mean, because due to the fact, I mean, we already said before that there's no energy left on the mothership, and that's what he needs to be able to sustain this army, so he's going to lose a base almost for free. He's doing some pretty good damage up here in the top left-hand corner, though, and this is not being answered by Elenki whatsoever. So these Zealots have a very good potential to be able to take out this base at the same time, but can he answer this army up the front?
Kevin, he can't really. His bank's already incredibly low now. He's making 5 Void Rays to try to get some way to deal with this Broodlord count. He's going to land some storms that definitely get some good damage in. Army's going to be falling back, but here's the thing behind this. Scar previously had such an incredible ability to reinforce this. His bank is now down to just 900, 2,000, and I mean, he's lost both of his mining bases here.
Yeah, so now he's falling back on harassing again. He's running smack dab into a lot of spine crawlers. That's going to do some considerable damage. The mothership was saved, and it's soon going to have enough for a vortex, and this is still a very powerful army. Very powerful, almost maxed out army. 9 more pylons were forced to be made, more workers have gone down, and Scar actually needs to retake this base ASAP.
Yeah, Scar is not mining at this time. Elenki is, and that's just an incredibly important point to take note of. Now, Elenki does, of course, need to reestablish, and is reestablishing that hatchery up in the 11 o'clock position. But that is, well, that's an answer to the no Nexuses that Scar's currently making.
Yeah, a little surprised about that. He's making 5 Void Rays at a time. That makes sense. There we go. Finally, a Nexus is going to get put down, and he'll need to expend pretty much all of his effort to get that. Oh, if he had Observers, though, that's...
I mean, how many times has this bit him?
Yeah, because he has dished out a lot of harassment. He hasn't had to take a lot of harassment of his own, but he's not really prepared to deal with it. No Observers, actually.
Infestor's going to come back in. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this is going to be canceled, and actually a lot of probes are going to die here, too. This is pretty bad.
Scar is being picked apart right now, and all of this is coming down in a large point to not an observer with this army. Well, and not an observer on the map right now, in fact. And finally, Scar, I mean, just realizes a little... after your mothership gets neural parasited by a bird infestor that pops out of the ground and grabs it, I mean, at that point, you should make the observer. He would have caught those infestors. He would have saved this base.
All right, but he didn't, and we'll see how he deals with it now. He does have +1 weapons finish for his Void Rays, I believe. So, no, I thought he was upgrading that a while ago. Maybe that Cybernetic got killed.
It was killed down here.
All right.
Made a really cool death effect. You ever seen a Cybercore die? I never, like, observed it. They, like, spiral into a vortex, kind of, for a second. It's really cool.
The harassment has still been good for Scar, but he has to kill this base. If he actually doesn't kill this right now, then he's considerably behind in this game. What started is really nice for him is actually turning into disaster, but there we go. Kills the hatchery. That's pretty good, because now his opponent's economy is very, very small.
Mm-hmm. That was so important for Scar, but I still like Elenki's position here, which is crazy to think about because Scar seemed so incredibly indomitably ahead in this game earlier, sitting on a bank of 3K to Elenki's nothing.
Oh,
but
stop that hatchery? Okay, well, no, guess he's not going to. There we go. Follows us up here just shortly thereafter. That's going to get canceled. Bye-bye.
The cancel, you know what? I mean, if Scar had waited a quarter of a second until that last... You saw how low that hatchery was. I was just like, oh, it's going to die. It didn't die.
And Scar needs to think about another Nexus. I mean, this is not such a good position, and this one's really exposed, so any other position is really hard to take, but he's going to have to grab one at some point because his economy, it'll have a temporary boost when this one gets back up, but he'll certainly want it to be a little bit better than that.
Oh, I love watching Archons kill changelings. This is officially now my most favorite thing.
Well, changelings are all dead, and is the infestor that was actually sitting underneath too.
I never realized how much I like that. All right, we've got a big little push of Void Rays coming down the bottom right now, guys. Going to go into the main of LNK.
I don't know if I like that. Okay.
I know that I don't.
He turns away, but one fungal on top of that would have just devastated it.
Yep.
But he pulls his opponent's army pretty far out of position.
And he kills the Overlord, so unless those are repositioned by LNK, if LNK forgets to put those back, he could easily swing in later, like a ninja, and just, like snipe a hive and just like, do tons of damage. Awesome. Archon's warping in, by the way. They're going to be trying to take out this 5th base. There's Broodlord there that's going to say no, but... Well, he can't. The Broodlord's not going to kill 2 Archons, so...
No. The Archon should be able to catch up to it. That's actually a pretty bad loss, really.
No.
And he's just going to run right by these Spine Crawlers and keep putting on damage onto this base. So more workers are going to go down. These players are both down to pretty small economies. 43 drones and falling now for LNK. So these Archons have certainly done their damage. Actually, probably needs a Neural Parasite, one of these too. But anyway, doesn't want to expend the 100 energy. Just uses it on these infested Terrans.
Archons do splash damage.
Yeah.
If you stole an Archon, you should be able to attack your own extractor with that Archon and make the Archon kill itself.
Yeah.
Because it's actually an enemy Archon.
Crazy thought.
Vortex!
Oh! Vortex actually hit some units to the side. Will he get a second one? These Broodlords are still in pretty good numbers, and none of the... he throws down another one off to the side. That's a positional Vortex. Because he doesn't want these Broodlords to sneak a little bit farther in. Templar are actually taking out a few of the infestors. And looks like the Broodlords are all going to die. The infested Terrans actually couldn't get dropped down in time.
Okay, he does. Oh, he captures them all. Storm gonna get in there and do a lot of damage, and now he should be able to escape relatively scot-free. I mean, he's going to. I love that expression, by the way. You can actually say it both ways, so you can never mess it up.
Yeah.
Scott and Scotch.
Well, this here comes Scar now. And he's got these Void Rays in tow. There's a lot more Corruptors that are being produced. It's going to be a total of 21 momentarily. But that's okay for Scar, because actually if he draws out... I mean, part of the purpose of these Void Rays, yes, he wants them to do damage. Obviously, they'll do damage very quickly. But even if they get cleaned up, he can then make a ton of ground units and actually get them in there before before all of those excess Corruptors are able to turn into Broodlords.
There are no Vortices left, though.
And he's still 50 seconds away, so it's going to be a while before he can get there. But at the same time, LNK hasn't been able to put any damage down here in the bottom right-hand corner.
All right, killing off the destructible debris is Scar. Going to be holding up at this staging area, but you know his only mining base right now is this one at the bottom, and he's kind of sectioned off from being able to defend it. He's got to go and take this long roundabout path, and that will leave his natural completely wide and open to a kill.
Or just, well... This is going to be bad, because these infested Terrans are actually going to kill this base so quickly.
Yeah, and well, he can't go down. If he goes down, the Broodlords can just march into his natural.
Right.
And he can't warp in units because he's essentially maxed out, and that's his only pylon. It's dead now, so warping in, not an option any longer. Scar is running out of time, running out of choices, and running out of game.
Okay, but looks like he's just delaying until he gets enough energy on this mothership, and he's only 10 seconds away, so that could actually start to get dangerous for LNK again. LNK is mining off of this base. Because it's been killed so many times, that's actually not a bad thing for him because he's got so many available resources at it.
Yep. Yeah, he does have a ton of mining time left on that base, but he's got such map control right now. I mean, I almost would have loved to see him just kill the probes and not actually kill the Nexus, because then he maintains this map control where Scar can't move out to defend that. And I mean, this is... Well... Now Scar can actually, like, do things on the map because he's got nothing to lose.
Well, exactly. Well, and the problem is now is that Scar almost can't delay any longer because he's got 13 workers. He's not actually doing anything. He's long-distance mining with 13 workers off of his 4th base.
Yeah.
And that's not going to help him. He has to push, and he has to engage. This is going to be the game, ladies and gentlemen. Will he be able to get the engagement that he wants? Needs to get a Vortex down here in just a second. Can't find a way. There we go. Gets almost all the Corruptors, so we'll be able to focus the right side of the army before going back after the Corruptors. So this is actually a pretty decent engagement to start, and the infested Terrans are actually getting killed very quickly.
That they are, but the Vortex is about to run out. The Corruptors are going to be back on the field here in just a second, and there are still Broodlords. If those Broodlords are dealt with, then he'll be able to just clean up the Corruptors for free. The infested Terrans doing so much damage to the bottom of Scar's army, and I don't know that he's got enough, Kevin.
He actually needs to kill these Overseers. They're all so low. If he can grab the last 2, then the mothership is going to be able to take damage for him for a while. The Void Ray count is actually getting very low. 40 supply and falling, and it looks like in the end, 41 minutes in, Scar is going to lose the game. LNK takes this and ties it up for NSHO.
A beautifully played game out of LNK. Scar was so immaculate in the beginning, but then just made a couple of slips there, and ultimately it cost him. It really just cost him the game. I mean, letting that mothership get caught and losing both those vortexes.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, that was really rough. That was actually the turning point in the game. Interesting how the lack of vortexes can turn things around so much.
Yeah.
Well, that's game number 2 in the bag. It took quite a while, but we got there in the end. And coming up next for Dream Team Gaming is GG Andal.
All right, so guys, one of the best players right now on DTG. Definitely excited to see what he can do here. As you know, before he joined the team, of course, did make it into Code A, one of the only players on the team to do so. That's what we're saying. You know, they're not the team of the strongest individual players, but they definitely have some good team cohesion.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, Scar goes down there, but we'll see what GG Andal can do next. Who's going to break this tie between NSHO and Dream Team Gaming? We'll find out after this break.